Oh, well, Darwin went in the Descent of Man, was it? Darwin's not to be... Darwin posed the first part of the story, but like... Well, go on then, what did he say?
Darwin said if we were reared under the same way that bees were reared, then we would be okay with killing our fertile siblings.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. Would you be okay with killing someone that's fertile? In Speaker's Corner?
Why? Why would I do that?
No, would you be okay with that? That's my question. No, why would you do it? Would you be okay with that? If the answer is no, then that basically means you don't believe that morality is subjective.
I do believe that morality is subjective.
So you believe if we today evolved under a different mechanism, under a different set of biological conditions, it would be okay to kill small children? Because that's what some things in some species actually do within the animal kingdom.
Yes, I know they do, but that helps them. Yeah, I do think that everything that we do helps perpetuate our genes. But going and killing...
No, wait. Everything that we do helps perpetuate our genes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Are you trying to like propagate your genes in some way?
Well, I'm improving my intelligence, which would then go off to...
Your intelligence would help you how?
What? How would my intelligence help me
with
to
your
procreate?
genes? Because it's all about promoting your genes.
Yeah.
So how would being more intelligent help you propagate your genes?
It would make me more suited for partners. It would make me more...
Do you know, according to research, the most intelligent people have the least amount of children, and sometimes no children at all? So if we were to put together, say, if you were to put together Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Lawrence Krauss, all these guys which are supposed to be intelligent, like Sam Harris, take all these people together, and we were to compare them to a Bedouin Arab who has 50 children, which they do, then their intelligence hasn't helped them with survival and reproduction.
Right.
So intelligence doesn't help you with your survival and reproduction.
That's going off on a bit of a tangent
No,
now.
it's not, because you said
right, okay, so why else am I out here having this discussion?
Because look, morality is an illusion of the genes. You have to, if you really believe in Darwinism, then morality is an illusion created by our genes. That's what it is.
Morality is an illusion created.
Morality, the sense of right and wrong,
yeah.
is an illusion created by our genes to help us survive and reproduce. So social cohesion is only there to help you survive and reproduction. That's all it actually is. So there is no such thing as right and wrong.
Well, not objectively. Yeah.
Objectively. And do you know the problem with that claim?
It's against Darwin?
No.
What?
The problem with that claim is it's self-refuting.
Okay.
Because everything becomes meaningless. There's no meaning.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
That's okay with you?
Yeah.
So what's the point of having a conversation?
Because, well, you're talking like the grand scheme of like we're going back to the why question, and
no, I'm not. I'm saying we're having a conversation. Our words carry meanings, okay? So we're actually trying to arrive at truth, correct?
Right.
If Darwinian evolution is actually true, truth is actually an illusion.
I think the truth can be subjective as well.
Okay, the truth can be subjective, so what's the point of having a conversation?
Well, there's empiricism as well. That is a kind of truth that I subscribe to.
But you just contradicted yourself, because you said truth is subjective, but empiricism is a type of truth.
What? I just contradicted. Say again?
You said empiricism is a type of truth. Before that you said truth is relative. That's a contradiction.
Which one is that?
Look, let me just ask you a frank question.
Yeah.
Do you believe in Darwinian evolution because you've been socialized into it? Because it's just, you know, they did this experiment in Stanford in which they took 3 lines, right? One was a short line, one was a shorter line, and one was the shortest line. And they had all these subjects. All of them were actors except for one guy. It's a very famous experiment. And all of them, they were asked which is the shortest line. And all of them went C, 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 C. But it wasn't. A was actually the shortest line. The test subject, all the rest of them are actors. Do you know what he actually did? He said C. He denied his perception to fit inside the social environment. So I believe, and this is my claim, most people in this country, they accept Darwinian evolution, including yourself most likely, because of this social sheepish behavior. It's nothing to do with logic.
Okay. Do you think, what about dogs? Are they wolves or are they dogs?
That's a totally irrelevant discussion.
If you don't believe in Darwinian evolution, then you don't believe in dogs.
Okay.
You don't believe in seedless grapes.
Okay. That's actually a fallacy of division. Let me just explain to you a fallacy of division.
You're going to talk about micro and macro?
No. This micro and macro is a fallacy.
Yes, oh good.
So look, I have this book in front of me, okay? If one thing in this book is true, does that mean the whole book is true?
No.
No. Perfect. The idea that a chihuahua and a pit bull have a common ancestor is a fallacy of division if you try to use that to prove Darwinian evolution. Because if you imagine this is a book called Darwinian Evolution, and there is an observation in there called chihuahua pit bull ancestry, that fact itself doesn't prove the entire book, because that fact can fit in line with a whole range of beliefs, including intelligent design, young earth creationism, Mendelian mutationism, Lamarckian evolution, evolution by self-organization, a whole bunch of paradigms. So you can't just take one random observation and say, therefore the whole is true.
Okay.
And do you know Darwin actually said that at the beginning of The Origin of Species? Have you actually read that book?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay, I ask you to read that book. And right in the beginning of The Origin of Species, he says, I have a whole bunch of observations in this book. I have things about anatomy, I have things about embryology, I have things about biogeography. I have a whole bunch of observations in this book. And I know and I understand that these same observations can lead to a completely different theory to the theory that I have, and even a theory to the complete opposite theory to mine. Because he understands the philosophy of science, that the same observations can give rise to different theories. But he goes on to say that I still think my theory is correct. That goes to show that there's a popular disconnect between what secular academics, the way they understand Darwinian evolution, and the way that laymen understand it. Because they think it's true, when actually, when you look at their work, they tell you about the probabilistic nature of it, the speculation of it, the assumptions of it, and the disputes of it. So what we should do as laymen is not base our metaphysical beliefs on something we don't even fundamentally understand. Because it's about life and death. You know, people are like, I don't believe, like, I'll ask you a question. There's a frog in Alaska called the wood frog, right? For a few months of the year, it completely freezes over. It's almost like you put it in a freezer, completely freezes, his heart stops, blood stops, everything like that happens. How did that come about? If I was to ask a layman like yourself or myself, how did that come about?
I don't know.
But you just said you believe in Darwinian evolution.
Yeah, well, I imagine that there's environmental factors which have drawn it there and...
Exactly.
Right.
So you have taken that blanket belief with a frog that you never knew existed before this conversation, and you've applied that belief to that reality. Do you know what that actually is? That's a religion.
Yeah.
Did you know that frog existed before this conversation?
I had heard of it actually, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it was in another...
What if I was to tell you about an octopus that becomes invisible at the bottom of the ocean? That claim that I just made could be false or true. That octopus may or may not exist.
Well, it's camouflaged.
No, not camouflaged. There's a difference. It actually becomes invisible. It doesn't fit inside the environment exactly. It's different to changing color. Nonetheless, you can actually see through it. Now, that octopus could or could not exist. And let's just call it species XYZ. A random species. A layman would say Darwinian evolution. They may have never heard of this particular species. Now what we need to do as human beings is we need to question the beliefs that we're socialized into.
Right. But I think evolution would be absolutely open to something coming along and proving and saying, I've got proof that evolution doesn't work. But so far, absolutely everything has. Darwin didn't know anything about genetics.
Okay, Darwin
since developing the phylogenetic tree, since the discovery of DNA, everything has fitted the exact way that
Darwin assumed.
Yes.
Okay. Firstly,
except for like weird like marsupials,
okay.
They're a bit out there.
Okay, so firstly, Darwin wouldn't have agreed with that, and I'll explain to you why. Near the end of The Origin of Species, chapter 6, what he does is he has a chapter called Problems with My Theory. And he says there's a whole host of problems with my theory. Some of them are more apparent than real, but some of them are real, but I don't think they're fatal to my theory. So when he was alive, he recognized there are anomalies to my theory. And those anomalies, for example, are things like Cambrian explosion, right? Gradualism. Now, today in 2017, you're making the claim that everything within biology fits the Darwinian paradigm. even secular mainstream evolutionary biologists who believe in Darwinism do not agree with that statement.
It's evolution by natural selection. Nothing is, there's no anomaly to it.
There's no anomaly to it? Are you telling me that within secular academia there's no anomalies to a particular scientific theory? If that's true, then Darwinian evolution is no longer science.
Why is that?
Because every single scientific observation, every single scientific theory is based upon a bunch of observations. Those same observations can give rise to alternative theories. This is the philosophy of science. So if you say this particular theory has explained all the data, a philosopher of science like Karl Popper would say to you, well, you've just made Darwinian evolution into a pseudoscience.
Open to contrary evidence.
No, but you just made a claim which explains all the data. Right? If you look, a theory that explains heterosexuality and homosexuality, why some birds fly, why some birds don't fly, why human beings are empathetic, why human beings are selfish. A theory that explains everything explains nothing, because it's not falsifiable.
It is falsifiable. It absolutely
No, but
is.
you just said it explains all the data. So if it explains all the data, and that is the best, that is a belief that you actually have about it before I actually go into the anomalies, then you render a scientific theory out of the realm of science. You actually make it into a pseudoscience.
إذا أعجبك الفيديو لا تنسى الإعجاب والتعليق، ولكي يصلك كل جديد اشترك الآن.